Thank you for visiting Past the Wire TV, the YouTube channel of PastTheWire.com.
Computing outside, Classic Empire, head-to-head, down to the line. Cloud Computing wins the Preakness.
Reach the starting gate, it's post time. Cold front, Pedro comes forward. And they're into the stretch, cold front, put to the 10. Cold front does it again. Right in the field of the Amsterdam.
Buongiorno everybody, Saratoga Today with Past the Wire, day 30 of the meet. Travers week is officially starting today. The weather looks good. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, forecast all clear. Saturday looks okay, so hopefully we'll get good weather throughout the week. We're on the turf today. That's a refreshing thing in Saratoga this year especially. And we're ready to roll. Thank you to Amwager, Zilla Racing Stables, and Spendthrift Farm for helping us to make these videos possible for all of you. Thank you for tuning in, and I think we'll get right to it. Decent card today, not the greatest. And now that we have these super days like Travers Day, they load all those stakes in on that day. Often. We see the same thing at Belmont and other meets that have the super days, super Saturdays usually. You get you take a little hit on the cards leading up to that because they just card them, card them that way, top heavy for Saturday and all the stakes. And, there's always a couple of maiden special weight races where they got a lot of hyped up maidens running on those big days as well to complement those stakes. But it is what it is. That's the game we played today. That's how they do it nowadays. And all we could do is deal with the other days and embrace those super Saturdays when they come. And this Saturday looks like it will be one. You've got that one race. Looks like it's only going to be 3 horses. I think Drain the Clock, Jackie's Warrior, and Life is Good are going to make up the field for the 7 furlong grade 1 for 3-year-old are those 3-year-olds? Yeah, for 3-year-olds on Saturday, and we'll deal with it if that's how it unfolds. That'll be an interesting race, and we'll be able to talk about some things in that race when it comes up because I've got a little bit of insight there. So we'll talk about that when we get to it on Saturday, and maybe we'll luck out and there'll be a couple of other horses in there to make it interesting. A couple of things to go over today. One of the things I want to go over when we talk about the feature, the John's Call. And some of you will remember John's Call, turf marathoner. I think John Luke Sameen used to ride him. Nice horse and interesting race today. We'll get to it in a minute, but there's a couple of other things to mention. If you haven't checked out the Lafitte Pincay video, it's up. I think you'll really, really like it. It's one of my most favorite interviews that I've ever done. A lot of interesting stuff came out in that video about weight, about riding overweight, about different horses, different things, different angles, other riders who were tough to ride against, not so tough to ride against, all different things. And you'll definitely get a glimpse into Lafitte himself and some of the things that made him such a tremendous competitor and a champion, champion jockey, multiple Eclipse Award winners, won just about every race under the sun, especially in the United States. But Just great guy, great interview, and a lot of stuff came out that you really won't hear anywhere else. Just kind of lucked out and went that way. So check that out if you get a chance and you're so inclined. We may even have Lafitte back on again, talk about some other things that we didn't talk about. He's just that kind of guy. You could talk racing with him like all day long if you love the game like I do and like he does and like I would imagine most of you do. So check that out if you have not. And let me know what you think of it if you're so inclined. My man Peter Walder, tough meet for him so far. We love Peter. He does a great job. He's just, not clicking. He's got another one in today. He's 0 for 14 at the meet, but he's got 2 seconds and 2/3. Those could have been wins. He's got one in today. He's bringing this one from Gulfstream. He runs his horses in the right spots. He's had a hard time getting in, and when you do get in, there's always tough ones in there with you at Saratoga. You just can't catch a break sometime. But he's got Casalsa in the second race. He's got Luis Saez to ride. That's a big help. We'll be rooting for Peter. He's got to and we got to help him get off that donut before they pack up and head back to, it'll be Gulfstream for him. Everybody's going somewhere different, though. Kentucky Downs, I think, opens very soon, and a lot of people will be going there. So we'll be rooting for Peter. The third race, Pocket Square, kind of comes back to a realistic spot for Chad Brown, Juddmonte filly that I thought was really going to be a nice one. Still certainly can be. Won that race at Keeneland, the non-winner at 2, when he shipped her in here from overseas. She had run in Great Britain and in France. She ran in 2 grade 1s, didn't have the best trips, didn't run the best races, but she drops back to a non-winner of 3 and looks to me like she lays over the field despite there being a pace issue. You never know. Who's going to go and who's not going to go in these races, and a lot of these horses get victimized by the pace, but she looks good enough that she could sit behind this no pace race and run past them all anyway. So she's a single in my book if you're betting any of the early multi-race wages, which I probably am not. But if I was, that's not one that I would be looking to beat today. She looks to me like she just lays over this bunch and can run past them anytime Irad pushes the button. Chad Brown might get off to a good morning because I thought in the 5th race, Digital Future, who he puts blinkers on from the rail, was going to be another one that would be pretty tough to beat. Those are 2 short price favorites, and I don't let the board dictate what I'm going to do or not going to do, but it's just a sequence where I've got 2 short price favorites I think are probably going to win or have a heck of a good chance of winning. So I just as soon pass that sequence and watch and wait for the later races and see what happens. There is an angle I will mention in the 6th race that I like a lot. It's actually a couple of angles. Again, short price, so it's just the first half of the card to me is something that I will probably be watching. But if you look at Waterville, Clement's horse in the 6th race, I love horses making their second start and having trouble in that race and looking like they didn't run that well at all. This horse was a slow start, bumped, got jostled around going into the first turn, went off 11-1. But here's the kicker to it. I like the angle in and of itself of a horse first start with trouble coming back in the second start, but this horse got a lot of positives because in that race, that was an open company race. She's a New York bred. Now she comes back against New York bred company. So that's a step down in class, in my opinion. Not as much as it used to be years ago, but now, they made it easy for horses to be New York breds today. Used to have to actually be a New York bred to be a New York bred. Now, my opinion, not so much, but that's a whole nother issue. Trouble in the first start, comes back against State Breds, a lot of really positive angles. Clement's very good second time out. So that one made a lot of sense to me, but again, won't be much price, and there's other angles in there that you may or may not be drawn to. The other thing I wanted to say about Pocket Square, before I go, if you're a Tracking Trip member, you know that I liked Etoile a lot in Canada on Saturday on Queen's Plate Day. She didn't win, but I thought she had a really bad trip, and I wasn't in love with the ride that she got from Irad Ortiz. I think she certainly could have won with a different type of ride, but she didn't. She ran okay. I think she ran second, but Pocket Square has been working with her, and she's a Grade 1 winner. And Pocket Square, in my opinion, from what I saw, worked better, beat her, and was just looking a little bit better than her. So that's just another reason why I wouldn't bet against Pocket Square today. Anyway, back to where we were. I just wanted to mention that. I thought the ninth race was a little interesting to John's call, and we'll talk about that before we wrap things up with hopefully a quick show today, so we don't take up too much of anybody's time, because I know time is valuable, and I hate to eat up too much of yours. So with that, one of the things I always tell people, and I think it's a very, very common mistake, even for experienced handicappers, even some very sharp players. Most people read past performances from the most recent race down. They're kind of laid out that way. It's the normal tendency to do it that way. We get trained almost to do it that way. And people just do it that way. And it's a hard habit to break. And if you ever talk to a guy who drives race cars, okay, actually race cars, all right, one of the things they'll all tell you is that fundamentals and learning to do things methodically in the right way when you learn how to drive a race car is paramount to being successful. If you get good fundamentals and good habits early, it goes a long way towards being successful later on. And that's true in a lot of sports and a lot of different athletic things. Good mechanics, good fundamentals, good foundation is vital. And in my opinion, it applies to reading past performances. And I think that reading from the most recent race down is a huge mistake. And if you learn to read from the oldest race up, I think that 99 out of 100 people will actually improve their game and their handicapping. And here's why. Horses, they repeat, they run in form cycles, they develop patterns. Sheet players and computer players know this, okay? Patterns are the key. Most handicappers bet a horse and handicap a race based on what they did last time and think that's going to be what they're going to do again. That'd be great if they were machines. They're not. They're animals, they're athletes. Riders are athletes. There are different factors every day, and horses are at different points in their form cycle. Hence, off the layoff, second off the layoff, third off the layoff, in the midst of a form cycle. All those things impact how a horse is going to run on any particular given day. And I think handicapping for how a horse is going to run today, as opposed to being overly caught up in how they ran last time or before, is a good way to cut your own throat. You're creating an obstacle for yourself that's going to be hard to overcome. So when you read from the bottom up and the oldest race towards the most recent, you pick up patterns and trends and different things in the form cycle that will jump out at you, that'll almost remain invisible if you read from the most recent race or top down. Big mistake. I think that you definitely see and get a much better picture if you read it the other way. And I'll use a horse today that caught my eye as an example. I found in this particular race, the 7, Rise the Guy, very interesting. Okay. Is he going to win? We'll find out this afternoon. But I found him very interesting. He'll probably be a decent price. And we'll talk a little bit about him and about why. So if you go back, we'll go back to his January 12th, 2019 race at Gulfstream. Now you may think, what the heck does that race 2 years ago have to do with this one? Probably nothing. But we're gonna read this like we're gonna follow this horse's career and see his patterns and see his development and see where he might be going today. Okay, runs a good second, first time out with Chris Landeros for Ian Wilkes, who's a patient guy, slow developer of horses, lets them kind of develop, but it can win first or second time out as well. And a very good horseman, worked for Carl Naska, top horseman for many, many years. So Ian knows what he's doing. Horse runs a good second at Gulfstream Park, speed favoring track, closed, run a good second. Stretches out, still on the dirt, runs a decent third, cuts back at Keeneland, tough meet, April spring meet at Keeneland, comes from far back over another speed track, runs third to Honest Mischief, who was pretty good for Chad Brown, I believe, back at that time. Runs second, sprinting again at Churchill, then stretches out at Churchill in an off-the-turf race. So Ian said, you know what, I'm going to put this horse on the grass. Race comes off, horse wins off, okay, in the slop. Gets on the grass, first time turf, off the maiden win, boom, wins right back, okay, open length win at Churchill Downs going a mile. Off that race and the maiden race, Ian puts the horse into grade 1 Secretariat, okay? Tells me, hey, he thought this horse was potentially a grade 1 horse, okay? And the horse is bred very, very well for the grass. He's a distorted Yuma out of a Royal Academy Irish bred mare, Sleepy Time. So he's got a lot of turf in his pedigree. Runs in the grade 1 Secretariat at Arlington, at a mile, doesn't run well at all. I look at that as that race we've talked about, that when you throw them to the wolves the first time race, he was 3 wide all the way around. He really didn't rally. Those horses were a little deeper than what he had been running with, especially on the grass. Maybe he didn't like Arlington, maybe he didn't like shipping, who knows. But he comes out of that race and runs in Kentucky Downs, $600,000 Derby. Runs to Todd Pletcher's horse, Social Paranoia, gets beat a half a length at a mile and 5/16 over that Kentucky Downs course, which is up the hill, down the hill, over the meadow, around the bend, and just a really, really European type course, very tough course to run over, and really, really legs horses up. And he was on the pace all the way that day, right there, till the very end against a tough horse. So, okay, he's got some ability for sure at that point in my mind, and probably in Ian Wilkes' mind. We might have known that before I did. So from there, he lays off from September to February. We know Ian Wilkes is patient, comes back at Gulfstream, and comes back a little flat. Loses to Penalty and Largent, who were decent horses at that time. Largent was kind of on a roll for Todd Pletcher. Penalty was a Bill Mott horse, not really slouches. Comes back, catches Largent again, goes for the lead. Landeros on him all the time too, which is a point that we'll make. Then he catches Temple, but then he catches, from there, even though he's not doing so well, they put him in the grade 3 Louisville at Churchill Downs when the Gulfstream meet's over. And we note that he got much better last year when he left Gulfstream and went to Kentucky. And you know what? Same thing happened this time. He goes from Gulfstream, where he was just okay, to Kentucky. And he runs a good race in the grade 3 Louisville to Admission Office and Arklow, who both would be very, very competitive here. Then he catches Zulu Alpha in the grade 2 at Keeneland when Zulu Alpha was really, really good. He gets wired by Factor This at Ellis Park on a soft turf course where he makes a big middle move and nobody could gain any ground that day. Then he goes to Churchill Downs and he wins his stake by 4 lengths, drawing away, wire to wire. He cleared off, still under Landeros. From there, he goes back to Keeneland, but now the race at Churchill was on the dirt. They took him off the turf. He went turf to dirt and won. They keep him on the dirt. Runs bad in the Keeneland Grade 2. Comes back at Churchill in a marathon, runs second, runs into Brooklyn, doesn't really run well at all at Belmont, Lone Rock, and Tis a Magician. Both come out of that race to win. Then he runs into Birdstone at Saratoga with Landeros this year and doesn't really run a step. So we talked about horses that run bad and you can kind of find an excuse for, and you get a better price than normal on them. Well, they take Landeros off. Okay, Jose Ortiz rode him once. Landeros rode him in any other start. And Luis Saez rides him today. Luis Saez doesn't take many bad calls. He's a leading rider. Him and Irad are in a fight for leading rider for the meet. And he doesn't ride many bad calls. So he takes this call. But here's the key. Again, he's going back on the grass. I think that it's pretty clear that even though he's got 2 wins on the dirt and 1 win on the grass, he's a grass horse. I think he's got pace, pressure to give, and even can go if nobody else does. So I think Saez has options, and we know Saez is aggressive. So I think he's either sitting off somebody and takes the lead in a race that doesn't have a lot of pace, or he goes right on the engine with Saez in this marathon and says, come get me and come beat me if you can. I think if you read his past performances, I think if you read from the top down, he looks pretty much like, just an off-form horse. I think if you read from the bottom up, he looks like he could be coming to a good race today, going back on the dirt, on the grass, off that dirt drubbing. And I think his works are good, and he's very, very live and has a, very nice pace setup. So there might have been better examples to show of a horse revealing some patterns when you read it from the oldest race to the most recent race. I chose this horse because I wanted to get that discussion out of the way. And I don't know that there's going to be a better opportunity to do it, or there may be several better opportunities to do it. But I thought this was a good enough one to illustrate my point. And you're either on board or you're not. Like if it's working for you, the way you read the form, absolutely. Do whatever works for you. I'm not here to change, fix anything that's not broke. But if by chance you think your game can improve a little bit, try it. See how it works for you. See if it paints a different kind of picture, because it certainly has for me. And I do believe if you learn to do it that way and embrace it and, as they say, trust the process, your game will get better, because I think things will get revealed to you and become more clear to you reading the form that way. So it'll be interesting to see how Rise the Guy runs today. He should be more than the 6-1 morning line off his form, really. Maybe the pace scenario will lead some people to him. I think Conviction Trade may go. If he does, I'm okay with him sitting off him. If he doesn't, that's fine too. I think he can be the one to go. But I think those two should be the early pace, unless something fluky happens, and we'll see how it goes. There's some strong closers in there, so they may run him down and inhale him late. But I think he's gonna make his share of noise, and I think he should be more than the 6-1 in the morning line. So I'll definitely be using him and fooling around with him a little bit. And see how things go. So with that, day 30, Travers week. I don't know what we're going to do for Travers yet. We may do a show Thursday night, Friday, and Saturday. We'll see, depending how the card is and how many stakes there are. I'll try and get it up early if it's going to be a long show on Saturday, so everybody could watch it. And we'll just see how it goes. We'll play it by ear once they draw the races and the PPs come out. We'll formulate a game plan. But thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Thanks for watching. Always a pleasure chatting horses with all of you in the morning. I welcome all the feedback, the comments, the questions, even the criticisms. All good. No worries. No, no hurt feelings over here. So thank you, everyone. And we will reconvene in the morning. Ciao for now. Nobody does it better.